Hello, hi, it's Black Gummy, and today I wanted to talk about my game. I just wanted to first apologize for this video taking so long. I got actually very sick with a really crazy sinus infection, so I couldn't make the video when I actually scheduled it. If you see my community post, I talked about like I had made a schedule to post more often. That didn't work out. Why? Because as soon as I made that, 2 days later or 3 days later, I got sick. Crazy. Actually, like the world was like, I won't allow it. How dare you? But the only reason I decided to make a schedule instead of just taking my sweet time with this project, since it's just a passion project for me, is because I have so much time on my hands now, and I'm gonna do the best I can with the time that I have. And so I decided to make a very it's not I'm not packed with things to do. It's just a very simple schedule for uploads and for like working on this game and getting it to a state where I can actually start programming it myself. So basically this video will just be me going over that schedule, how the game mechanics work, what I'm trying to do. Just know that because this is an in-process video, like it's a devlog, so things will change. I have made mistakes, and I will definitely talk about those mistakes in these videos. So anyways, thanks for stopping by, and let's get on to it. Okay, so I have a schedule that I set up where I wanted to have some more structure around making this game. Like I said before, I really didn't think I would have that much time, as I thought my time would be eaten up by, making money. Contrary to what I desired, that didn't happen. So now I got time. So you know what? Let's actually put some work into this. Let's take this seriously. So basically, what I have planned is that I have 2 hours of scripting about at least like about four times this month, which is only 2 hours each. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but for me, who I really struggle and get really anxious when I'm writing because I don't feel like I'm a strong writer. So this is really difficult for me, and I can only withstand about 2 hours before my anxiety catches up with me, and I just need a break. I just need to remove myself from that. Where drawing is a lot longer, I have drawing scheduled as well, and like that's more of a 4 hour deal because I could sit for hours and draw. I could spend the whole day doing that because I'm just used to it. So this is more of a endurance test for me when it comes to script writing, because I'm not gonna pretend like I'm the strongest writer or that I know a lot about script writing. I'm literally learning stuff as I go, and I'm kind of just making up stuff too. Now, if you don't know what, I also have script writing and Artisy in the same days. Artisy is basically like a narrative design tool where it helps you like basically script out a game without an actual script. Like you can't export what you put into it as a script, but like basically it's helping you to plan out the game. And one thing I learned about script writing for games is that it's not consistent, or at least that's the general consensus. Good lord, that's the general consensus that I got, which is that script writing really isn't like as formal as it is with like animation or movies. And I have more familiar with animation, where scripts are pretty important because there's time limits and expenses, and it needs to, like, animation's a lot basically. So I am having a little bit of difficulty trying to understand how I should frame my scripts. But my answer to that is to really just use Artisy, which is, like I said, a tool to help you plan out a visual layout of the game. So I can plan out the dialogue, I can plan out the routes, I can do all these things in a visual medium, which is great for me. Also, if you want to use Artisy, it's not that hard. I mean, honestly, use it however you understand it best. They always have like this pop-up thing where like it'll tell you how every tool works, but it's very simple program, and it's also free if you're like a single dev, like a solo dev like I am. and I'm not doing it for profit. Well, I don't have a business basically, so it's free for me. But yeah, like I've been using that and it helps so much because I am a visual learner. I draw all the time. I'm literally an artist before I am like a writer. So that really helps me out. The only thing is that I'm realizing that the script needs to be reworked after the initial write up. So I'm trying to not rework it as I'm going, and once it's finally reworked, I can start applying it to Artisy. But I'm kind of understanding that like you don't have to take what's in the script completely and put it into Artisy or even into the game. Like from what some people were saying, and I specifically went to Reddit because I was having just a hard time finding even examples of game scripts. They were saying like scripting and like dialogue and stuff comes from a lot of different places while you're working on a game. So it doesn't necessarily, games don't necessarily need a script, and if they have one, it's not going to match up one to one with what's actually in the game. So I'm trying to take that into consideration as well as I'm working on this game. Like I said, this is all like new stuff for me. So yeah, I'm, to say the least, very overwhelmed. It's very hard to figure out what I'm doing and if I'm doing it right. And like every time I talk to my friends or my partner about this game and explain all my ideas, they're like, "Are you sure this game is like how long? Like what? This is a lot of stuff. Like you're doing a lot." And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make a good game. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Which I will explain a little bit more when it comes to explaining the game mechanics and stuff, which what I'm struggling with specifically in making this game in terms of the storytelling. Because when you make a murder mystery, you gotta try really, really hard. Contrary to belief, murder mysteries are hard to work on. And seeing that firsthand, I used to judge, and I'm still judging. But I'm just saying, like, this is hard. I'm trying. And then the last thing is that I do have days where I will be posting social media and stuff like that. So if you're looking at the schedule, you'll see like there's a whole week where there's nothing on there. That is the entire week that I was sick. Like I was sick I was sick the week prior, but it got worse by like Saturday or Sunday or something. And I just was out the whole week. Like I couldn't do anything. I was in so much pain. So this week I have to work more double time basically, and I'm looking forward to doing the live stream this Thursday. We'll see how that works out because it's really stressful for me to work while being watched. I don't like being watched while I'm drawing. So, but I'm gonna try my best because I have been recording myself. I've always, if you look at my channel, I have recorded myself drawing before, but drawing and like doing a live stream, it takes so much out of me. Like I get so anxious because I get so into my work. It's hard for me to like look at the chat. I will miss like any conversation, like you talking and stuff. I don't know. I'm not looking because I'm trying, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try really hard. But other than that, I will be trying to post more on social media. I have done some like updates on my coffee and on my Tumblr. Well, not Tumblr, but I'm trying to upload on my TikTok as well. We'll see. That's like 4 different. I have a lot of social media. I'm going to try my best, but I might falter in some of these because they're not as important. But I do want to try to be active on Tumblr at least because I kind of like Tumblr more than anything. I know I don't get as much attention on it, but like I just like the atmosphere there. It's very chill. Other than that, we're just going to move on to game mechanics because that's really important. And I think I've explained everything I could about the schedule. So I wanted to just reiterate the plot of the game. Basically, the game is that Myra comes home after a year to 6 months of being away due to a disagreement with her peers and her brother. Her brother is the owner of the Magic Tower, and Myra is incapable of really wielding magic, but she can make magical tools. So she's able to imbue objects with magic. She just can't use it. Although her brother is incredibly proficient and her mother was an amazing magician, also the late queen of the country, she's not able to do all of those things. So she ended up leaving due to those disagreements and went out to find her own way in life, which is to find someone to be able to sell her wares, because she still, it obviously has value. That's where Amadeo comes in, which is he's a well-known merchant, and he's brought her back to her hometown in hopes of them uncovering a little question, a little mystery of this magical tool that he had to produce a few months back that he had a lot of questions about, that he could not decipher. And he's hoping that if she's able to discover it, that they'll reveal that secret. But also it points to her being very proficient in magic, despite not being able to show that she can. So basically a test. In Myra coming back home, a very strange incident occurs where the visage of her mother appears on the sandy shores on the first night of the Sun Kingdom's festival. The Sun Kingdom is celebrating for the first time in 10 years the next king, and or just like the kingdom in general. They haven't had a sun festival in a long time. So in this visage of her mother appearing on the sandy beaches as a ghostly figure, her mother says some very warped and very disturbing things about how magic is, what magic means, and how magic isn't really that good, and then also implying that people need to go back to following traditions and things like that, which is odd. Not something that her mother would say, and she knows that. Now, in this coming out, the next day, a dead body washes up on shore, and it is of a magician. Someone has killed a magician. Some people are implying that it's the ghost of the mother trying to make a point about how magicians have too much power, this, and that. And Myra is distraught by this, mostly because, like, my mom would never do anything like that. She loves magicians. And then shortly after that, her brother ends up being jailed for the crime of killing this magician, which is odd because her brother is also very in love with magic and would never kill another magician. And honestly, it doesn't really make any sense at all. So now Myra feels like she has a mission to uncover this mystery, to clear her mother's name and clear her brother's name. Throughout the game, you will choose between hanging out with Amadeo or Cian. Well, not throughout the game, but like in the first half of the game, and then like later on, it just sticks to one route. Cian appears like probably the second day of the game and introduces the whole thing about like her brother being in jail. Cian is like a family friend. If that wasn't clear from the first time I talked about this game, but Cian is a family friend, and he knows the ins and outs of the family. He spent time in the Magic Tower and is aware of Myra's abilities. So there's kind of a little bit of a tension between them as well because of how their relationship ended before she left. So I wanted to play on a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, there's a little bit of intrigue, but it's not really anything heavy stakes. It's just about clearing the name of people, but not really about who was murdered. Like, who was murdered isn't really important as much as it's about clearing the name of the people that Myra loves, despite the fact that they don't get along and stuff. And you kind of learn a little bit more about Myra and her relationship with her family and her relationship between her and Amadeo, or between her and Cian. But yeah, basically low stakes mystery, heavy on the character development, super vacation vibes. I really want it to be like very fresh, refreshing and sweet and things like that. And I really wanted to apply a very interesting magic system, which I'm not going to go into too much because it is a bit complicated, but I think I will make a separate video to explain how magic works in my world, because it's not exactly how you think. And I feel like it's hard to explain how Myra is able to be a magical merchant and imbue things with magic if she doesn't have magic herself. And I will explain that. So cool game mechanics. That I wanted more than one game mechanic. I really wanted to have like a day and night cycle, a clock, and then I was going to have basically like a inventory system. But that was just way too much. It was just I just could not figure out how to make the inventory system make sense. And honestly, it just felt overwhelming at a point where I got stuck mentally trying to figure all these things out. And I ended up taking out the inventory system because even though I felt like that would be more in line with a murder mystery type of game, it just wasn't feasible for me to like put that in on top of the day and night cycle and then find a purpose or a use case for this thing that just doesn't have a use case in this game, which disappointing. But as long as I have one cool game mechanic, that's the only thing that matters to me. So basically I have a day and night cycle, including a clock function, which I feel like the clock just goes hand in hand with the day and night cycle. Like you need to be able to see, I feel like you need to be able to see what time it is so you know how much time you have left. Or I could just do something where like it just tells you, hey, it's about to be evening, whatever. Either way, there needs to be some kind of indication of what time of day it is and like how much time you have left, depending on what you're doing in the daytime versus, the evenings. Because the evenings isn't really, it's evening to night, basically there's going to be a point in the game where like it's time for you to go to bed, kind of like not directly just like you need to go to bed now, but like basically the story will end on its own versus you having to make a split decision like how you would for the day and afternoon, or at least that's what I'm thinking currently. One thing I did want to add into the game, which I don't see as a mechanic. I mean, it's a mechanic, but it's very simple because it's still based off of choices, which is that you have to talk to these spirits, and the spirits are important to the story in terms of how the magic works, the history of the country, all that stuff. How do I get that all into the game? Don't worry about that. I'm not worried about it, so don't worry about it. The point being is that you have to talk to these spirits to unlock new spells, and every spell that you unlock helps you find clues for the next day. That's my thinking. It's smart, right? It's cool, right? Like you feeling that, right? I'm feeling it. It sounds great to me. Wait till that shit don't work. That's how I feel. I be thinking, oh, that's so cool. Wait till that shit don't work, and I'm gonna be pissed. But right now, I think that's a very simple mechanic where every spirit you talk to is a different, like, has a different personality or attitude. And I will explain this about the spirits. The spirits, the way you see them right now, that's exactly how they're going to represent in the game. And I showed this to my partner. He said they are scary. Like, they're, like, up there with, like, how biblically accurate angels are. And if this thing moved near me, I'd be terrified. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he right. It is terrifying. Am I going to change anything about that? No, because I worked very hard on these designs, and you not going to convince me of nothing. This is what's going to be. But basically, the spirits are kind of like fairies, so you could think of it in that way. But the spirits are really just, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. We're going to leave that till later. Yes. Anyways, talking to the spirits. Now, I haven't decided if it's an every night thing or if it's just like every other night, because you have 7 days to solve this mystery. 7 days. I don't even think I brought that up. The 7 days is basically that, like a week. You have a week to basically solve this mystery because that's how long the festival lasts. And because you only get half the day to actually solve anything, you don't have a lot of time. But honestly, it's not really about. I want it to be kind of like a how catch 'em kind of situation, where you're not trying to specifically like catch the culprit. It's more about outsmarting the culprit. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Like a how catch 'em is basically how do you catch the criminal versus like the regular way that murder mysteries work, where you're trying to solve the mystery and then I don't know how to explain, but if you watch Columbo, those are how catch 'ems. Like you see the murder, you see the murder and you see the murderer, and it's really not about figuring out who did the things. It's more about figuring out how to outsmart the person to get them to admit what they did, or to catch them, like corner them basically. And that's what I'm thinking about. Like, you gotta corner the culprit, not like really catch them, because it basically, I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but that's how I was thinking of it. So there are spells that you use. There are like I haven't really figured out how those spells will work, and I haven't really figured out how to frame the clue finding part. I'm trying to not lean into moon logic, but I feel like the part of the game where you're like using spells to figure out the different scenario of how to get this thing isn't so important, and I feel like I'm trying to put too much emphasis on it already. So I think I'm just going to be really relaxed about that, because I think what the important part of the game for me is the storytelling. I put way too much time on it to not bring it up. So I think I'm just going to go really relaxed with how you use the spells. It should be fun or just interesting, but I think the most important part is the story, like, and the romance. So I'm gonna try to put all my hands on deck for that. But I really just wanted to have interesting game mechanics and things like that, and like, I think I kind of have a good idea, but this is really a thing where, like, until I implement them into the actual game making process, like the programming part, I won't really know if it works well. But we'll see, because, I got time. Okay. All right. So we are at the final part of this video where we're going to be talking about acts. Like I said earlier, I have 3 acts. In the first act, it will be mostly determining which route you'll end up with. And then the last 2 acts is like every time it's night, you're with that one person. So you'll get like a different outcome. So it basically, whatever you decide in the first act determines the other 2 acts, in terms of just like who you want to end up with. And I've noticed this in other games. I think a lot of games use this formula basically. There's some that don't, but from the games that I've played, that seems to be the consensus. So that's what I'm going to go with. In the first act, you spend a lot of time gathering clues and information, and that helps you also determine which routes you're going to go with. And that's just day 1 and 2. So actually, there's day 0 and then there's day 1 and 2. So technically, you get 3 days in Act 1, but day 0 is not a... Day 0 is just the introduction essentially, and it's not the full day. You only spend like half of the day, and it's just the setup for the whole mystery in the first place. Day 1 is when the murder happens, and then, so forth, so forth. So day 1 and 2 is what really counts. In Act 2, your route is determined, and now you're like getting spells and you're using different stuff to solve. Now, I don't know if that's going to stick with Act 2 where you start being able to have spells by day 3. I feel like, depending on how I write the script and how I frame all this stuff out, you might start doing the spells a lot earlier than that. But I think Act 1 gives you a better introduction of everything you need to do, and being able to understand how those things need to be planned out. Like explaining the spirits, explaining who Amadeo is, who's seeing, what's going on. You have a brother, you have a mother, da 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 da. So Act 1 should have all those things, and I feel like by Act 2, you should be able to understand, and like the pacing should really start falling in line. All right, so by Act 3, you're on the last 2 days of the route, and now you're at the how to catch the culprit and route endings basically. So I haven't figured out Act 3. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know. That's crazy. So I got nothing to say about Act 3 because I haven't even really thought that far out. And I know that that sounds bad, but I ain't got it all figured out. I think I need to keep working. If I could get through Act 1 and Act 2, I'm sure I could get to Act 3. Basically, like, I just got to keep pushing through and things will kind of low-key fall into place. I know that's not the, like, planning is important, but I'm just like, I have a vague idea of how these routes should end, and I have a vague idea of how to catch the culprit, but right now I need to figure out how all these things fall into place with each other and how they all connect. So I feel like just working on Act 1 at least and getting that done by, like, hopefully in like a month or two. I'm hoping to be done with it by July, like the end of July. Then I could start actually focusing on, like, the other 2 acts. And I don't really know if, like, writing all these acts are going to take, how long they're going to take, because I've never written or made anything like this. So I noticed that people, like, track their, how long it takes to write their games or how many words they have. And I'm trying to low-key keep track of that with my script and Trello, and I'm trying everything I can to keep track of everything I'm going through to make this game. But I'm going to be honest with you, even though I made 2 games before, this is all very new for me. Like, it's still very new for me. I'm not, like, I don't have a specific system, and I'm just trying to, like, do everything I can. Like, try anything, honestly. But, you know, I'm trying my best, basically. And all that to say, this is the most, like, to be decided kind of part of the game that I haven't really fleshed out these things because there's so many other parts to it. I haven't drawn out. I've done, like, sketches of what I think the environments will be, what I think the characters will look like. I have ideas of, like, how the UI will look. And I think I could talk about those things maybe later in a different video. But currently, like, I'm still stuck on writing the script. And it's just taking a while because I just have really bad anxiety. And I don't know what I'm doing. So it's just making it all the more harder for me to write. Like, I just keep correcting myself and keep stressing. And, like, it's just a lot. But I'm hoping that people do enjoy the game, or at least enjoy these videos, because, you know, we will see, you know. But thanks for sticking around. This is pretty much the end of the video. I know this was pretty long. It was too long for me. But I hope you like it. And once again, thank you for watching. Bye.